Now, let's stay with that story about HS2. Downing Street insists it remains committed to the project, but the cost of the flagship line has ballooned from $55 billion in 2015 under David Cameron's government to at least £71 billion. Well, local leaders in Birmingham called the delay a betrayal of the Midlands, but others want it to be scrapped altogether. Well, joining me now is Bill Cash, the Conservative MP for Stone in Shropshire. Good evening to you, Mr. Cash. Good to have you with us. In Staffordshire.
Hello, I'm in Staffordshire,
apologies.
actually.
Yes, sorry, my auto cue belied me. I realised it was Staffordshire because I was looking up Stone and where you are on the line on the HS2.
Yes.
So I understand that you're no fan of HS2. So how have you received today's news about these delays?
Well, I find it very welcome news because at last they're listening. I had a meeting with Mark Harper only a couple of weeks ago, and we presented a paper based on some incredibly, I would say, brilliant analysis by experts in my constituency. It also went to the Treasury Select Committee, the Treasury itself, and I had a meeting with Jeremy Hunt where I touched on this the other day in number 10. This is the white elephant in number 11 as we come up to the budget. I've been against it because I actually believe it will work. But having said that, the bottom line is that what we're doing in our report is offering a really serious alternative to the direction in which this is going at the moment. Let me just say this. What we call Phase 1A would use the West Coast main line from south of Stafford to take HS2 trains to Manchester, Liverpool, and the northwest and Scotland on the existing railway, which would mean cancelling Phase 2A at Crewe and Phase 2B to Manchester. In other words, from Birmingham upwards in that direction. And then Phase 1, and this is the crucial bit from the point of view of the national interest and the government's budget, would save £30 billion at current prices and £50 billion overall. Now, that is a huge benefit to the British economy, and this is what has been demonstrated. And I'm very glad indeed that the evidence that we've given appears to have helped the government to arrive at a decision to pause this arrangement in line, of course, with the fact that so many of the costs are going up and up because of inflation.
Right, but the argument is that inflation isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and actually this is just really a fudging of the figures for next week's budget and perhaps budgets to come by spreading the cost over a longer period of time. And HS2 isn't being scrapped right now; they're just delaying it.
Well, I'm not so sure about that because in my experience, and I've been in Parliament 38 and a half years now, I would say that when you hear things like this and it's pausing, it often means a prelude to something which is going to be a big change. They now have 2 years in which to really reevaluate this whole scheme. And at the same time, the misery that's been caused to my constituents is unbelievable. I could give you instances which we haven't got time to go into. But what I can say is that this is a huge moment, not only in relation to the potential improvement of the British economy, but also to my constituents and all the people who are affected in all the constituencies around us. It's a really great moment for re-evaluating the situation on the basis of really very good statistical and engineering and financial proposals which were put forward, which have now been received by the government.
So it's good to have your insight because you're saying that this is a guise for actually scrapping HS2 eventually. Simon Clarke, one of your colleagues, of course, former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, said that he doesn't believe it was, he has serious doubts as to value for money and cost control. Why is it that you're so against it? Because this is a flagship of your party and your government.
Actually, it was initiated. I've been fighting this thing actually since 2010 because it was proposed, as a matter of fact, by, I think it's Lord Adonis and the Labour Party in 2009 and then implemented from 2010 onwards. But leaving that aside, I have actually arranged for the Minister for HS2 to come up to my constituency to meet my constituents. They're suffering an enormous amount of misery as a result of this. But it's not just me or my constituents. It's also down, for example, in Buckinghamshire, where the late Cheryl Gillen, who was a good friend of mine, she campaigned with me. And what we said in the House of Commons, and quite often, if I may say so, the best way to make a secret is to make a speech in the House of Commons. But in every single time we pointed out the manner in which HS2 have behaved in relation to our constituents. And I can only say this is a real opportunity to reevaluate the scheme and to get if they were determined to go ahead eventually, at least what we're offering and which we've argued and which we've successfully demonstrated is that there is a way of being able to save up to, as I've said, £30 billion at current prices and £50 billion overall. That is a huge amount of money, which will be an enormous saving in the middle of this economic situation which we've now got and which the Chancellor of the Exchequer will have to address in a few days' time.